Good morning. Good morning. Carolyn Ward, glad to see you all here today. Just real quick, housekeeping. We hope to make this place a real and powerful place to connect with each other. So we have a moment to disconnect your electronic communication devices, if you will.
Thanks for the reminder.
You are welcome. I can read directions. And also just a reminder that our service is recorded and streamed on the YouTube channel. So if you do not want to be identified in that way during talkback, just be aware of that. So this morning I'm excited that we have a guest speaker and a guest from Midland Care Hospice here in Topeka, and Dr. Charles Nelson and Dr. Mark Wiles. Did I say that right? Yeah, thank you. Okay, are here today, and April 16th is National Healthcare Decisions Day. It's a day to highlight the importance of completing advance directives and communicating with your loved ones about healthcare wishes. So I know it's not a riveting thing, but my personal experience with death and dying, and what I'm most fearful of is suffering, makes this an important topic for me. And I hope that we can continue to get more comfortable as a culture with these conversations. Death is the one thing that we can count on, and taxes, I hear. We're usually better at cheating taxes than death. So hopefully we can get more comfortable with having these important conversations. So I would... if Jake has a little some welcoming music here.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far-off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars, I know the truth that liveth. What though the darkness round me grows, songs and the light it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost drum, while to the rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are ringing. Send friends for shame or undefiled, how can I keep from singing? How can I keep from singing?
We light this chalice, being conscious that our nature expects, maybe lights it. Remind me to bring a new candle next time. We light this chalice, being conscious that our nature expects much good to happen Yet this does not prevent strong winds from striking us without any clear cause. Fire falls upon our possessions and consumes everything, and we find ourselves more hopeless than ever. May this chalice sustain us through the wind that has struck us hard, through fire that has fallen upon us. May it bring us together. May this chalice be a symbol of unity, hope, and blessing. All right, now I'd like to give people an opportunity to share joys and concerns. I know Jana had, an announcement.
I have an announcement.
Come forward.
Cycling. Come forward. I am David Schaeffer, and I have been honored to be the chair of the hiring committee, which just made an incredible decision. We have hired as our new DRE, Erin Forstein. We will be starting shortly.
Welcome, Erin. All right, any other joys or concerns? Birthdays, anniversaries? All right, Jana, would you like to make your announcement? And then Joe has an announcement.
So, I'm happy to announce, with Rob at my side, he was my right-hand man during the rummage sale, so we were able to make a profit with all of your donations, all your help during the sale of over $2,800.
Come on down, Joe.
I'm Joe Silsby. I'm treasurer and lawnmower and I don't know. I don't do plumbing, so I got Rob to help with that. So I hate plumbing. But anyway, these packets back there are information about the pledge coming up right now, pledge forms. We really need to get them in. We're starting the budget for next year. So we need to get things. So you can do online. The online form is very simple. It's the very last page. The other is information on how to figure and determine what you can afford and what is your fair share, and information about what we hope to accomplish this year. But the final thing is very simple to fill out. If you want to do paper form, you can fill it out and put it in the box, or you can give it to me or mail it in, or you can go online and do it. So we're starting this Wednesday to start working on next year's budget, so we need some numbers to work with. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe. All right, and as we think about planning for our future, Joe also reminded us that we have, as you consider making plans, leaving a legacy to the UUFT. There's some brochures here that will have backed by those pledge forms, so consider that as well. All right, any other announcements, joys and concerns? All right, that we will do our offering now. Thank you to our ushers. Generosity is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and our institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept gifts of the congregation. Thank you. Great, thank you. So now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Nelson from Midland Care Connection. He's been with that organization for about 16 years. He specializes in internal medicine, hospice, and palliative care. And he's going to share some information with us today that hopefully you'll all find helpful, and we also should have time for question and talk back. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn. Good morning. I go by Greg. I'm Dr. Greg Nelson, and I'm joined by Mark Wiles, my physician partner over at Midland Care. We're really happy to be here. I applaud your courage asking us to come and talk about what sometimes is a difficult thing to talk about, but obviously it's something that we all need to be thinking about, almost regardless of age. And with National Healthcare Decision Day coming up soon, now seems to be a good time to talk about it again. And I know it's probably not a day that's highlighted on your calendar. It's not a day that's highlighted on my calendar, but it's something that I do every day. This is part of what we do in palliative care, is talk to people about these difficult issues. And it's hard for doctors. It's hard for people and family members to have these discussions. But I thought I'd give you a doctor's perspective on all of this, so that you might see this topic from a little different point of view. When someone creates an advance directive, that means that usually there's a piece of paper filled out with your wishes for health care that is to be honored. And of course, we live in a country where choice, freedom of speech, is number one, really. And so there are laws in place across the country, honored by all states, so that if you create something like a durable power of attorney for health care, assigning someone else to make healthcare decisions before you when you're unable to, or something like a living will or a do not resuscitate order, that wherever you go, if you've got those created, that's something that's honored all across our country. And knowing that, it's something that you don't want to take lightly. It's not an easy thing to think through those issues, but thankfully there's people that can help. In fact, oftentimes our palliative care team at Midland is involved seeing patients in their homes, in the hospital, wherever, and we help them walk through these steps. And it's one of the most important things that we do. And we never get tired of doing it. It's something I frankly enjoy, because anytime you can do something to help people feel better at the end of it, it feels good for me too. So it's something we like doing. I can tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Topeka and Manhattan, went to medical school at KU, and then took a job as an internist out in Dodge City, Kansas. So moved way out there west. But it was a great place to raise kids, and good little hospital out there. I had a good group of doctors that I worked with. And in 1991, one of my patients came to me and said, "Dr. Nelson, we're starting a hospice. Would you be our medical director?" And I was kind of busy, and I thought, oh boy, I don't know if I've got time for this. And I said, "Well, how many patients do you have?" And she said, "None." And I said, "Okay, yeah, that sounds like, I think I could do that. I think I could carve out time for that." Well, as you might guess, over time we did get patients, and by the time I came to Topeka, we had about 30 patients in our hospice out in Dodge City that we were caring for at any given time. But I grew to really love hospice and end-of-life care. It kind of forced me to become really good at pain management and things like that that are important at end of life. And as we crossed the year 2000 and heading forward, I started going to conferences, national conferences, where hospice and palliative care doctors went, and just liked it more and more. And I was talking to guys who were giving up their regular practice and becoming full-time hospice medical directors. And so about the time I turned 50, I was really thinking seriously about this. And at the same time, Midland was kind of at a size with their hospice where they were really needing somebody full-time. They had local physicians who, would take time from their busy practices to be a medical director, but they were busy, and it worked out that I was able to move here with my wife. All our kids had grown up and had moved out, so we were out in Dodge City by ourselves. So it felt good to come back to eastern Kansas. And I love doing hospice work, still like doing hospice work. So what's palliative care? Palliative care is an idea that kind of came up in the mid-1990s, where physicians, healthcare providers looked at hospice and thought, wow, what a great concept. Here you get a team approach to care. You not only get a physician who knows how to order medications to keep people comfortable at end of life, but you get a nurse, and you get a social worker, and you get a chaplain, and you get a home health aide who can come in and help you bathe and do all kinds of personal care. The home health aide turns out to be the most important person on the team. Anyway, if you're on hospice, you'll quickly find out your home health aide is the most important person. And anyway, it's such a great concept of care and so holistic. So the question was eventually asked, well, yeah, that's great for people that are terminally ill, but what about people that are just ill, maybe not terminally ill? Why can't they have that same kind of care? So creative people started thinking about this, and palliative care as a specialty grew from that thinking. And naturally, physicians who were practicing in hospice thought, wow, that's something I want to do too, because I'm kind of already doing that. And that was true for me. And so at Midland around 2010, we thought like we need to create a palliative care team and start seeing people in the community who may not be dying right now, but have severe medical illness. Their families are struggling. Maybe their pain's not well managed. And so we started doing that. And we went to what was then St. Francis Hospital. Now it's KU St. Francis Hospital. And said, we'd like to start an inpatient palliative care program too. And they said, we've been talking about that for 5 years and we just didn't know quite how to get it going. So we partnered and we started that. And that's where, frankly, I really started learning a lot about this stuff and how important it is. And I knew it was important before that, but now we were thrown into a different milieu in the hospital, in the intensive care unit especially, where crises had happened and families were in a free fall and everybody was struggling. Nurses, doctors, families, everybody was struggling. And it's very gratifying to practice in that environment, but also very emotional for me, very difficult. But something that we got better and better at as we went. We also discovered that families weren't getting what they needed, frankly. They needed my nurse sitting down with them and spending 30 minutes talking, listening especially. They needed somebody who would gather all the family members, go to a room, and listen for an hour while they talked about their concerns, what their struggles have been in making medical decisions for their loved one who can't make medical decisions. And usually those situations were most difficult when nobody had ever talked about this before. And Carolyn knows about this. She is a wonderful volunteer for No One Dies Alone. It's mostly, I said Stormont, right? And so she sits with dying patients that don't have family members. So she knows all about this and can probably tell better stories than I can tell. And you should take advantage of that in future days with her experiences and things. And I guess I should also say, although we've got about 30 minutes here to talk about this, I'm happy, Mark's happy to stay around after this and talk more. And if you'd like us to come back on a different day or an evening, we're happy to talk about this more. But what we learned at the hospital was families, like I mentioned, were suffering and struggling and not knowing how to make decisions. As you guys know, 100 years ago, this wasn't even important. We didn't have medical technology. We didn't have ventilators. We didn't have BiPAP machines. We took care of each other, but we didn't have all this technology. But now there's all this technology, and when a family member gets called, your mother in the nursing home is short of breath and she's having chest pain, what should we do? And what are you going to say? You're living 3 states away. You're going to say, well, send her to the emergency room and do everything. I'll be there when I can. But do everything means a lot different now compared to even 50 years ago. Do everything means a lot. And especially if you wind up in the intensive care unit, it's IVs and monitors and blood sticks frequently, and you can't sleep, and maybe you're on a breathing machine, and it's a traumatic experience. And so these kind of discussions, if they happen ahead of time, can ward off some great discomfort that can happen inadvertently by well-meaning people. Doctors don't want people to suffer either, but sometimes things head in that direction, and we're kind of called to do that. We have to try, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. When we first started doing palliative care in the hospital, we were seen as kind of the hospice team. Well, the patient's dying, let's call palliative care. They'll come and do end-of-life care and manage pain, and we were happy to do that. We were good at it. We knew all about that. We were happy to do that, but it took us a while before we got them to see that we can be of great value to families and physicians even in other places too. You may not know this, but physicians, it's not just a hard thing for you guys to discuss. Physicians have a hard time with these conversations too. If you've ever been in a doctor's office or been maybe even in an oncologist's office, And you want them to be frank with you. You want them to, tell it to you straight, and they can't do it. They beat around the bush, and they're uncomfortable with it. And I wish that they taught us how to do that better when we were in medical school, but they don't, and Mark would probably say the same thing. We kind of had to learn it as we went. So what we found out was that although we were dying to get called into those really, really crisis situations and dive in and help those families, physicians weren't quite sure how to use us. I'd be sitting in the ICU writing a note on another patient, and I'd be looking at some patient in the room there, and the family's in there crying, and the patient looks really uncomfortable. And I'll look over at the intensivist, and I'll say, you think palliative care could help out on that patient in there maybe? That family looks like they're really, really struggling. And they say, oh, no, they're not ready to go palliative yet. Ready to go palliative. That was a new phrase for me, ready to go palliative. But I kind of knew what they meant. They were thinking, well, you don't call palliative care until the very end. That's what those guys do. And we don't want to scare anybody by consulting palliative care. If you don't mind a brief moment of doctor humor, I was going to show a video if you could cue that up. It was really, really funny for us in palliative care. Hopefully it'll be a little bit funny for you guys too, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Hi. We got a call that this house is on fire. How can we be helpful? Well, the house is on fire, but I'm worried if you go in there it might send the wrong message. Wait, what? I'm with the fire department. Yes, I know. I think you could be really helpful, but I think the family might be worried something is wrong if the fire department shows up at their house. But something is wrong. Their house is on fire. Do you think there's any way you could talk to them, but not use the word fire? What? I just think if the family hears the word fire, they might lose hope. But I am with the fire department, and I am here to help this family with their fire. Right, totally. I think you could be really helpful, but I'm just not sure this family is in a place where they're ready to meet the fire department right now. Can we call you the water support team?
You're right, the bottle of water is a good thing. So what are these advanced directives, and what are we talking about here? You've probably heard of, and maybe even have, hopefully you do have, a living will, a durable power of attorney for healthcare, sometimes called a healthcare proxy. Let's talk about those two things first, especially the healthcare proxy, because that, in my mind, is the most important thing. By the way, as you leave, there's a stack of these. This is something that Dorothy Kurtz, a nurse at Midland, and I created about 2 years ago. And it's kind of a frequently asked questions thing about advanced directives. And actually, I read it again a couple days ago, and it's still pretty good. I don't think I would change anything. It's really pertinent. And in the back actually are the actual forms that you can fill out and tear out. Durable power of attorney for healthcare is something that you'll be asked when you show up at the hospital. I bet they're going to want to know who your surrogate decision maker would be. That's a person that you choose, being of sound mind, to speak for you when you're not able to speak for yourself. So that's something that you may not need today. And if you show up in the emergency room and you're awake and cognitively good and can make your own decisions, it doesn't come into play then either. But if you show up in the emergency room and you're confused or unconscious, and the doctors recognize that you're really not able to weigh the pluses and minuses of the treatment that they're recommending, they're going to want to call your durable power of attorney for healthcare. And that's someone that you will have selected, maybe have down on a piece of paper. And if you're married, it usually kind of falls to your spouse kind of naturally. In the state of Kansas anyway, that's the way it is. And your spouse would kind of be put in that situation. Is your spouse always able to make good medical decisions for you? Probably. They probably know you better than anybody. I can think of a lot of families, though, over the years where maybe that wasn't the right choice. And I can also think of families where maybe the spouse is the second spouse, and all the kids from the first spouse may not get along with the second spouse, and then there can be some contention. And so it's something that you need to put a lot of thought in when you're thinking about this person that's going to be making medical decisions for you. Their job is not to impose their morality on your health care. Their job is to tell the doctors what you would want in that situation. So that's the way you need to think about it when you're choosing this person. You want to pick somebody who knows you well and that you've talked to about this. And so a conversation has to take place. And if you walk away with anything today, walk away with knowing that the conversation is the most important part. These forms are great, but they don't take the place of the conversation. So whoever you choose for your durable power of attorney, your healthcare proxy, your surrogate decision maker, it needs to be somebody that really knows what your wishes are, because these forms don't cover every situation. They just can't. There's just no way they can do that. And almost every time the situation is a little bit different than what everybody thought it was going to be. And so this person, although you've relieved them of some of the burden of being this, of making these decisions by talking to them, they know what you want. They're probably it's still going to take some work on their part, some thought, some prayer to know exactly what to tell the doctors in a given situation. So once you choose that person, you talk to them, you tell them your philosophy. If I ever show up in the hospital and I'm close to the end and doctors are saying, should we put her on life support? Should we do surgery? Should we start antibiotics? Should we start IV fluid? Should we put in a feeding tube? Know that my feeling about these things is X. That relieves them of that huge burden. And there are so many times we've seen a family that in a situation like that where dad's had a stroke and it looks pretty bad, and the kids sit down and say, Dad's been talking about this for years. We know exactly what he wants. He doesn't want a feeding tube. We're not going to do that. Even though the doctors are recommending it and he doesn't want that, we're not going to let that happen. And those families, those kids walk away from that situation knowing that they did the right thing for their dad. A living will, on the other hand, and these are very abbreviated discussions. Sometimes we give talks like this and they go for 90 minutes or 2 hours. So we can really talk about this for a long time, and some questions are probably coming up in your mind, but we'll save that to the end, and even afterwards we'll stick around and answer your questions as long as you want. A living will is a little bit different. This is an opportunity for you to put down on paper kind of what your wishes are if an end-of-life situation comes up or you're terminally ill. But you make it out ahead of time. You don't wait till you're sick. Hopefully you don't wait till you're sick, and so you can have a chance to think about these things ahead of time. I should also say that you don't need a lawyer to fill these out, although I would encourage you to talk to a lawyer if you feel that's important. But they're created in a way that with a notary or a couple of unrelated witnesses that can also sign the form with your signature, they're good to go. You make a bunch of copies, you give them to your kids, you give them to your hospital, you give them to your doctor. If it's a do not resuscitate order, you put it on a magnet on your refrigerator so the EMTs can see it if they happen to come to your house. But you don't have to have a lawyer to fill these out. I would really recommend, though, that you maybe sit down with your physician at your next doctor's appointment and go through it. Some of the things you can designate on your living will, like do you want dialysis or not dialysis? Well, you might know what dialysis is, but you might not exactly know what dialysis is. So having your doctor there to ask questions of can be pretty important when you're checking yes or no. So that's something I would recommend too. The beauty of the living will is it does give you a chance to say yes or no for some very specific health situations. Do you want CPR? Do you want a feeding tube? Would you want dialysis? Would you want surgery if you were terminally ill? Those kinds of things. And the forms almost always start off with a paragraph that says something like, if two or more doctors who are caring for me, one of whom is my attending physician, and they agree that I'm in an end-of-life situation with a terminal condition and that performing certain procedures may not improve my quality of life or prolong my life, then I don't want those things to happen. So I think people worry that when they fill out a living will and they say no dialysis or no feeding tube, it means they could never get one. Remember, that form only applies to an end-of-life situation when the doctors are thinking that doesn't matter what we're going to do, this is, the patient's going to die, and the family needs to know about that. That's when the living will comes into play. So don't worry that you're not going to get care after you fill out a living will. You're going to get care That only applies in that very special situation. The one thing that you need to know about that document is, say you are in that situation, and your family's in turmoil, of course, and they're grieving what's happened, and they're having second thoughts, and they're looking at your living will, and they're going, oh no, look, mom said she doesn't want this, and the doctors say they could do this, and they're going to be tempted to tell the doctors, oh no, I know what mom said, but this is what we want. Well, as a physician, we have to honor that living will. So what it says on there, we're required to follow what the patient says, because they filled it out when they had a good frame of mind. It's been witnessed. We're compelled to follow that. Does it happen every time that way? Maybe not. It's not a perfect world. Physicians are supposed to follow that. Sometimes families can apply incredible pressure. You're worried about lawsuits. Sometimes things don't always happen the way you want, but all you can do is the best you can. And as a palliative care physician, boy, we advocate for that. If we see physicians waffling or families stepping out of bounds, so to speak, to make something different happen, we try to intervene and make sure it doesn't go that way. Sometimes those uncomfortable procedures like breathing tubes in the throat and being hooked up to a breathing machine, a feeding tube, giving you artificial nutrition, they sound pretty awful. They can be pretty awful and uncomfortable. Sometimes they're temporary, though. So it's the doctor's job to explain to you and your families when situations like that might arise. So when you fill out a living will and say no feeding tube, it may be that you might have a stroke that maybe has caused some paralysis and maybe has paralyzed your swallowing muscles, but the doctor should come and say that, if we put in a feeding tube, we'll be able to continue to nourish them. And the families should be thinking, oh no, Dad doesn't want that, no feeding tube. But the doctor should say, yeah, but sometimes after a stroke, people recover. And it could be in 2 or 3 weeks, they'll regain their swallowing function. Is it possible that your dad would want us to put in a feeding tube temporarily, and in 3 weeks, if he can't swallow, well, we need to address this because he had his wishes very clearly known. So there's a gray situation that comes up, and there's no black and white way to navigate that, but those are some of the things that can come up in healthcare. But those are things you can also talk to your kids, talk to your spouse about. If you have pretty strong feelings about it, make those known. So durable power of attorney for healthcare is one form. Living will, that's another form. They're in this little booklet. A do not resuscitate order, if I've still got a little bit of time to talk, I can give you kind of the cliff notes for that. So you know what CPR is probably. You've all seen it on TV. It works every time on TV. Chest compression, shocks to the chest. Usually if somebody's heart is stopped or they're scrambling and doing everything to support you, a breathing tube gets put down into your trachea, and in the field they're using what they call a bag to breathe for you, but when you get to the hospital they're going to hook you up to a machine and it's going to start breathing for you. And sometimes it can save a life. We all know that. That's why we learn CPR. I would encourage you all to learn how to do CPR in case it should come up in your family or at the grocery store. But it's not always the right thing in every situation. CPR can save a life when an unexpected heart issue comes up. But in a patient who's dying from lung cancer and is at the end of life, CPR code blue, getting put on a breathing machine, is a horrible thing to happen. That person gets robbed from probably the peaceful death that they envision. But not everybody sees it the way I do. I'm in healthcare. I've seen what a code blue looks like and how traumatic it is and how ribs get broken and the chest gets really bruised. And in the patients we take care of in palliative care, usually they have serious medical illnesses. They're approaching end of life. They may not be there in our minds yet. But when something like that happens, the code blue doesn't suddenly restore them to health. If it somehow miraculously gets their heart going again, they still have cancer. They're still in an end-of-life situation. We just kind of postpone things a little bit. And we put them all through this painful procedure that now we've got to deal with. Some people would say, you know what, when my time is up, I know this cancer is going to get me. When my time comes, I want it to be peaceful. I want to just be at my home, maybe. I want to have family around my bedside, and that's the kind of death I would want. That's what I envision for me at the end of my life, knowing that it's going to come. It's going to come for each one of us. I've talked to others who would say, in fact, just this past week, nope, I want them to do everything all the time. Doesn't matter. I know I've got cancer, but I'm not ready to go. I want EMS to be called. If they're talking to their husband, shaking their finger, don't you let me go. And they're not wrong. I mean, they're entitled to their own wish. And so it's unlikely that they're going to sign an out-of-hospital do not resuscitate form. But we have those forms available, and they are to be honored. So know that if you are at a situation in life where you sign about an out-of-hospital DNR, know two things. It doesn't mean you won't get care. It just means that if things should go in the direction of your heart stopping, that they're going to stop at that point. They, meaning EMS guys, the emergency guys, if they happen to come to your house, or the doctors that happen to walk into your room at the hospital, they're going to take care of your pneumonia. If it looks like you're having a stroke, they're going to care for you with that. If you're having a heart attack, boy, they're going to do their best to get that vessel opened up. The DNR doesn't come into play in those situations. It only comes into play at that end-of-life situation, and then it directs healthcare providers not to go beyond that last step and do CPR and do those other things. So don't be fearful of a DNR, but I'm probably talking about it last, because unless you feel really, really strongly about it, I don't think it's as important as the other two forms. If you've had the conversation with your family, they'll know as you approach that situation what you would want, and they'll be able to direct the healthcare providers about that. And believe me, we talk to family members about this. Would your mom want to be resuscitated if her heart stops? We feel like that would be a very traumatic thing for her to go through. We can tell you more about it if you want to, and if the children understand what the wishes are of the parent, then they'll probably direct the physicians to do what the right thing is for their loved one. Mark, what other things should I be thinking about?
I just want to add.
Yeah, come on up.
I just have two quick points. One is I appreciate so much Dr. Nelson's time and ease at which he talks about, and sometimes we both talk about this particular issue. So I just wanted to, be sensitive to the crowd and respectfully, offer up for consideration that I know this is a super difficult topic for this group. I could understand if many of you have already dealt with, end-of-life issues, let's say related to a parent or someone close to you. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, sensitivity and appreciation too for everybody sort of being willing to go there, with us kind of in this discussion. I recognize the difficulties and maybe some of the feelings and struggles and unresolved thoughts and feelings that kind of come from this sort of talk. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, first off. Secondly, I also wanted to offer up that, that journey, whatever that was, or journeys that you've gone through, I just wanted to offer that, your journey isn't necessarily the same. That is, you're not, your journey is yours. Your book, your chapters, are for you to write. And so I think sometimes we worry about talking about this subject, let's say with kids, for instance. I don't want to upset the kids. They're going to be thinking that, dad's thinking about, passing away, or it's such an uncomfortable thing. I don't want to bring it up at Thanksgiving or Easter. Gosh, Easter's coming up. Those kinds of things for folks, what I would offer up in our experience is that can actually be a loving gift to your kids, to those people close to you, to actually go ahead and bring it up. They're going to honor, your wishes, but it is important for, I think, you to be the one to bring it up. Understand it's difficult for the kids to bring it up to you at the table at Thanksgiving. So I think we should all, try hard to bring up that, and again, see it as a loving gesture, not something to worry your kids unnecessarily with, but to feel more at peace about that decision being made ahead of time. That is a gift to those people that you're asking to help you, make that decision ahead of time. The only other thing I wanted to point out real quick is we haven't talked a lot about hospice, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk about hospice as, again, it's important to me that people understand ethically that hospice isn't there to, speed things up or to slow things down. But what we do is we just allow things to happen on their own time. Whatever that process is that's already been set into motion, we're just coming alongside of patients and families at that time to try to partner with people, walk with them, help make that journey, and that's the difficult sort of symptoms that sometimes can come along with end of life. We try hard to smooth that out and make that as easy as it could be. But we're not there to prolong things or to shorten things artificially. That's actually very important to us. It's important to me that everybody know that about hospice too, that it is not there to speed things up. We're just partnering with, like I said, during that difficult phase that unfortunately comes for all of us, right? We don't like to talk about that or think about that, but it is a part of life. It's a part of our work as physicians too, caring for people from, birth to death. That last chapter for people, that's a part I feel privileged as a physician to be able to intersect with people at that difficult, time in their life. So I think that's a privilege to be able to get to do that.
When Carolyn called me, or she called over to Midland and they contacted me, and I said, "You bet, that sounds like a really fun thing to do." It is. You might not think it's fun. I love giving talks like this. And she reminded me then when we were emailing about National Healthcare Decision Day, and I thought, ooh, yeah, I should probably know when that is. And I thought, the 16th of April. And I thought, ooh, I wonder if it's what day? Earth Day. Well, the first thing that came to my mind was, is it? Yeah, it's the 16th though. Is that tax day?
18th. Taxes are due on the 18th.
18th, okay. And I'm not here to straighten that up. But it was the 16th, and my first thought was, ooh, that might be Easter. But no, I looked at my calendar, and it's not Easter. It's the day before Easter, and it kind of got me thinking. I wondered about, the disciples. It was Saturday, and what must have been going through the disciples' mind. And then I happened to think, I wonder if Jesus prepared them for this. Did he talk to them about this ahead of time? And in fact, you probably know this, in fact, he did several times. He brought it up. And what was their response? We don't want to talk about this. You're scaring the crowd. This is making us uncomfortable. They shushed him every time. And then the unthinkable happens on Friday, and Saturday is a day of complete chaos in their minds. Fear, despair, complete unrest. And it was inevitable, of course, in that day and at that time. But it doesn't have to be that way for us. Not that it's ever easy for a family to go through something like this, but like Mark said, it can be a gift to bring up these conversations, as hard as it is and uncomfortable it is, to talk about this with close family members, just so they know. And it may encourage them someday to have the same discussion, with their loved ones, with their kids. So I guess I'll close with that. And thanks. And like I said, we're happy to hang around for questions.
Yeah, if anyone wants to ask a question or share a comment or experience, come on up.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you. It's an important subject. Almost 50 years ago, I was an emergency medical technician in north central Kansas. And one of the things that came out of that experience was the recognition that people die, and generally die unexpectedly. And when you transport a dead body of someone who an hour or 30 minutes or 2 hours earlier was a living person, it makes you aware of things that you didn't want to be aware of, okay? Now, 20-some years later, I was the state director of emergency medical services here in Kansas, and was dealing both issues of how do you get people to recognize they're going to die, because if they don't recognize it, they're going to create enormous complications for their family. And one of the things that I personally got involved with was essentially clarifying liability if an emergency medical technician complied with the do not resuscitate form, because essentially we had to clean up the law to allow people to follow a do not resuscitate form. Otherwise, they would have been legally liable for providing care. Now, what I wanted to say from a very personal perspective was that when my parents died, and my last parent died 20-some years ago, you recognize that you're next on the list of people who are going to die. And you could no longer believe, or if you're lucky, you're next. And you could no longer believe that that essentially it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen to you. And I am grateful that we have younger members here because you're further from that point than we are, and maybe can talk about it. The other thing that I would suggest is that it is your job as an older person to have that conversation with your kids. Don't expect your kids to have that conversation with you because, believe me, they don't want to have the conversation. They don't want to think about the reality that you too will die. And so I would strongly suggest, first of all, that you do a living will, that you do a durable power of attorney. And I have one that I did some 30-some years ago, and when I had a meeting with my physician, I recognized that he didn't have a copy of it. So I've got the forms, and I still need to fill them out, because although I've talked to everyone, it's not the same as actually having a sheet of paper. And the more you can get comfortable with the idea of talking about your death, the more you get comfortable with talking about the idea of other people's deaths, the better you are to be able to work with what happens when it happens. Because the one thing I will guarantee is, for all of us, it is going to happen.
Not to be too cute, but life is just as good in the ejection chute as when you're a kid.
On the back of this brochure, there are some websites you can go to read more about this. I would especially highlight the one called the Conversation Project. It's a website that helps guide people through these conversations. It is beautifully written. It's a really good website to look at.
First, I wanted to thank you twofold. First, for the talk, and my father was in hospice in 2012 before he passed, and you took good care of him, and I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It was our pleasure to do that.
Second of all, I want to hear your comments, if you could, on organ donation and that aspect of that process. I'll let you know that I am a biomedical engineer and actually am one of the beneficiaries of organ donation as I work for a company that requires cadaveric specimens, etc., for testing the medical devices that we create for living people. Mm-hmm. So please, if you can give a little your thoughts on that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. As you might guess, when we're especially working in the hospital and are trying to help families when their loved one is dying and trying to help prepare them for that, this conversation has to come up. And it isn't always the palliative care team that brings it up, but it must come up about organ donation. And what a wonderful thing. I think we all, on the surface, especially when thinking about it, would like to see that happen more and more, because transplant teams have gotten better and better over the years. What an amazing thing to be able to do, to donate organs. As you might guess, if you're in favor of things like that, you're able to sign the back of your driver's license in that respect, and that must be honored. Even if your family is upset by it or something like that, it is honored. So there's another example of your wish being followed.
Are your old organs still worth donating?
Well, that's what somebody else has to figure out. That's what somebody else has to figure out. And many times that's true, especially for kidneys, which can really function for a long time. But, you know, if you're 90 years old, they're probably not going to, you know, give your heart to somebody else. But that's somebody else smarter than me is the one that makes those decisions. And there are simple things like skin and cornea and things like that that almost anybody can donate in almost any circumstance. If a patient has cancer, boy, that's a different story. Somebody has to think about that and whether they would really, you know, allow a donation to someone else who we may not even understand the consequences of that and the situation we might put somebody else in. But I would say you don't worry about all those little details and situations. If organ donation is something that you feel strongly about, you should definitely do it. It's not always possible that it works out the way you want it to, but again, you can't worry about that either. You just have to, as an act of love, I would encourage that. Is that, yeah.
We use bones, so you know, old ones are just as important as young ones because we have to understand the whole paradigm of disease and normalcy, so to speak, in order to be able to treat with artificial hips and artificial knees, things like that.
Yeah, we donated my mother's cataracts back in '79. So, but my sister-in-law that died in January lived with Parkinson's for 30 years, and her body was accepted by KU for medical research, and that's something she'd wanted to do for 10 years. But there are certain guidelines. You have to make sure there's certain health criteria before the body, you know, that they wouldn't. Luckily, she met that because that was something she was really, really important. Mm-hmm. It was very important to her. So, yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, too. And it's not as simple as it sounds. It's not something that your family can decide to do after you've passed. That paperwork has to be done way ahead of time, and there's a lot that goes into it. So if that would be your wish, that you would like to donate your body, say, to KU Medical Center or something, you know, do that way ahead of time and fill out that paperwork. And it happens. They honor that.
My name is Frank Taft, and I thank you for your interesting comments. You have given us a different perspective than most of us have. But your comments raise a question in my mind that brings to mind a situation that happened about 30 years ago over North Topeka. A family got into a quarrel at the funeral home regarding some issue, and in the tussle they knocked the casket off the stand. I'll never forget that. It was in the newspaper. I knew the people tangentially. But my question for you is, what percent of the situation that you observe result in a conflict between family members as to what is best to do for the person there needing care in the final years of their life or final moments?
That's a really good question, and especially working in palliative care at the hospital, we definitely saw those situations. Maybe not where they were that physical, but it certainly can happen. I would say probably at least half the time there's some disagreement within a family that we encounter, and it may be just a mild disagreement. I mean, one child wants Dad to go on the ventilator, the other says, no, Dad doesn't want that, we don't want him to go on the ventilator, and we work that out. But the families that are in agreement on things are probably the exception. And so, yeah.
I just want to add too that in palliative care, our perspective is skewed. That is, we're sort of only getting invited largely to visit with the families that are struggling.
Yeah, that's true.
That percent is much higher for us. If you look at it across the board, I would say that's relatively low. But a lot of it is, you know, people are at different points in time in the grieving process. Maybe they haven't seen Dad for 10 years. So they have they got to come a long way in a very short period of time. And another child may have been with them every day. And so, understandably, people just need time to be able to get there. Some more easily get there quickly than others. But I just want to say, we may not be perfectly suited to be able to answer that question across
the board. That's true.
Let's say.
Yeah, we get, in palliative care, we get pulled into the difficult situations. And that's the right thing to ask us. Yeah, I can think of some family meetings where 30 people showed up, and we had to move upstairs to a big conference room, and everybody just had to have their say. Yeah. But that's what needs to happen. I mean, there just isn't another way.
My name is Carolyn Peck, and at my job at the VA, I helped a lot of people do advanced directives, and I'm a fan. I believe in it. I think it's really important. It's helpful for ourselves, but it's also helpful for our families. And I understand it probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference which form you use, because there's a lot of forms around for advanced directives and all that kind of thing. But because I've done it so much and I'm pretty comfortable, I'd be very willing if anybody wanted to have me sit down with them while they're thinking about it or when they're actually filling out the form, I'd be willing to meet with people.
That's great. Thanks. Thanks, yeah.
I have 2 comments and then a question. When I was a home health nurse, it was required by Medicare to ask everybody if they had durable power of attorney and a living will, but my husband and I didn't. And I asked that question over and over and over before we sat down one night, and it took maybe an hour. I mean, and we had put it off for so long. Then my question, my mom had hospice and it was wonderful in Wichita. But my question is, when I had a friend with cancer, she got put on palliative care, and I just sat and cried and cried and cried. But she's absolutely fine now, and so I didn't understand that palliative care, even though I was a home health nurse, I didn't understand about palliative care as opposed to hospice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I mean, she did have a lot of pain and a lot of nutrition issues, and that's why they got called in. So anyway, if you could have kind of explained the palliative care, you don't have to be dying, apparently, to get.
Right, and that's actually kind of the whole idea about palliative care, is that we try to bring a team approach to care. We have access to chaplains and social workers too, so we try to bring those people in as needed to assist families in situations. Sometimes the suffering is in relationships, and I'm a physician. I'm not trained or have the knowledge to be able to help out in that, but my social worker is, and my chaplain is, and so we can pull those people in to help families that are suffering in that way. I'm pretty good at managing cancer pain and physical pain, but without that team, we just wouldn't be able to do it. So it's like hospice in that respect, in that we try to bring a team approach to everybody's situation, which every single one is different. But we take care of people that either could kind of be in that last 6 months of life where you might say they could be a hospice patient and they're not ready to think in those terms. Palliative care is a good choice for that situation, or they really might be years from being in that last 6 months, but they're suffering in some way, their family is suffering in some way, and they just need better symptom management, better pain control, better, somebody to talk to. Maybe they need resources in the community that our social worker can help them obtain. Maybe they need a completely different form of health care that would suit their needs more. Mark works in the PACE program at Midland, and that's what it's designed for. People, they're not ready for hospice. They don't maybe not even know about hospice, but they're struggling to stay in their home. Well, that's what PACE does. PACE works to help keep people in their home and provide health care and the support that they need.
Hi, my name is Walt Racker, and thank you both for helping us begin a conversation that we need to be having. My question is, can you help me understand the distinction between advance directive and living will?
I guess living will is one form of an advance directive. Advance, of course, means ahead of time, something you fill out way before you really need it, hopefully, and directive means it's your opportunity to direct your family, your neighbor who might be your DPOA, your doctors, the healthcare system, direct them in the kind of care that you need. So I kind of see advanced directives as being kind of the global term for the three individual ones: the do not resuscitate order, the durable power of attorney for healthcare, the living will. Those are three separate forms that kind of fall under that advanced directive umbrella. Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you have one last comment? All right. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. I will say just a couple little peanuts from my experience with people transitioning is you can almost guarantee you're probably inviting conflict if you don't have the conversation. So have the conversation repeatedly. It's okay, just like you're planning dinner, you know. Often we make the effort because we don't want our loved one to have to pay for our burial or our cremation. So we often, that's not uncommon at all for us to go ahead and prepay that, you know, have that all nailed down. But what we're missing is that there's a process from getting from here to there, and we kind of like to skip that part. So don't do that if you can avoid it. And specifically in regard to hospice, I don't believe I have ever, there's no such thing as involving hospice too early. If you don't qualify, they'll tell you you don't qualify. You don't have to make that assessment. They make the assessment for you. But more often than not, I see them involved way too late. There's so many available supports from hospice. It's not just the strictly relegated to the magic cocktail of Ativan and morphine. There's a whole lot more going on there. So anyway, I appreciate the conversation, and I'm happy to help answer questions and for anyone as well. The booklet, there's plenty of copies on the back here and in the lobby, and the link to the electronic version has been provided on the website and email and Facebook. So if you want your electronic copy, that's available too. All right, then I'd just like to close with a short reading called Ultimate Grace. May our eyes seek to appreciate our breaths, to dedicate power, our hands to warm each other. When loving fearlessly, we are invincible. Remind us of the very questions that we have turned away from, that we thought could not be answered or impossible to realize. Dear universal intelligence, your embrace contains everything but confines nothing. In the ever insistence of existence, may this one moment count. Thank you.
That certain night, the night we met, there was magic abroad in the air. There were angels dining at the Ritz, and nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm perfectly willing to swear that when you turned and smiled at me, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. The moon that lingered over London town, poor puzzled moon, he wore a frown. How could he know we two were so in love? The whole darn world seemed upside down. The streets of town were paved with stars. It was such a romantic affair. And as we kissed and said goodnight, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. When dawn came stealing up, all gold and blue, to interrupt our rendezvous, I still remember how you smiled and said, was that a dream, or was it true? Our homeward step was just as light as the tap dancing feet of a stair, and like an echo far away, a nightingale sang in Berkeley Square.
Well, these experiences